Hello to you once again. In my previous short, I uploaded a problem by Giambatista Lolli where we demonstrated that provided there was a black pawn on the board, white can, with king and two knights, deliver checkmate. And that was a mate in three. That was pretty straightforward. This one is not so straightforward, and so it will take a bit longer to demonstrate how we can possibly do it. What you need to do when you look at a position like this is to recognise that should white make the fatal mistake of taking this pawn at any stage, then the game cannot be won. That's the point. King and two knights against a king cannot deliver checkmate. Always keep that in mind. So the key to solving this is we must keep this fellow on the board. We must utilise him in such a way that he comes in handy to avoid white placing black in stalemate. And that is rather reminiscent of the previous short, if you think about it. We must also watch out for black's king escaping, either like this or like that. So the question is, what is the key move here? Well, I played around with three moves. I looked at this, and it doesn't work. I looked at this, and it doesn't work. So what is the third move that I looked at and discovered that it not only works, but the two moves that I've just pointed to that didn't work as the key moves, they do have to be played at some point in any variation that ensues from all of this. Can you see the key move here? Well, the key move is knight f3. We're wanting to get this knight over to the queen side to combine with this knight to deliver checkmate. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to look at what happens when black pushes this pawn. He's wanting to ensure that white must take it, otherwise it will promote. So what we have to do is we have to find moves, firstly, that will block that pawn judiciously. We can't afford to let it come too far down here, and then to eventually unblock and deliver checkmate. Now, any variations that result from this or this, they don't work. Test them for yourselves. If you're in any doubt at all, let me know and I'll be happy to provide you with the variations. But in point of fact, what you'll discover is this is the reply here at which we are going to give consideration. And there is inevitably a transposition of moves. And you'll see what I mean as we go through this. So what does white do here? What does he play? Well, I did say that this would come, and it does. And now, in keeping with what I've said, he pushes on. So what do? Do you remember what I said? We don't want to allow it to go too far, so we block it. That does away with that b pawn moving. So what does he play here? He has two choices. Well, let's just look at what happens if he goes here like that. So how do we deal with this? He's wanting to run away. Well, we don't let him. We play here. And then he goes here, and we go here. Do you see what we've done there? Yes. We're forcing him back here, and then we go here. I'll not go any further into this. This just demonstrates that we've stopped him from going over there. And by transposition of moves, should he play that at any time, that is the way that it works, and it filters in to the line that I'm about to demonstrate. So let's just put this back for a moment. That is after knight f3, b5, knight on b to d2, b4, knight b3. We'll look at this. What does white do here? Just take a look at that. Does he play knight e5? Well, no, he doesn't. What he does is he plays here. We stop him now going along the back rank. We rule that out. So what does black have? Well, he can play either to a8 or a6. It doesn't matter. And I'll show you why. Let's just go for a6. Can you see why it doesn't matter? Because white on his next move plays this. And if you think about it, if he'd gone to a8 instead of a6, he wouldn't have had any other choice. He'd have had to have gone back to a7. He can't go into these squares because they're covered by the knight. So if he'd been here, he'd have had to play here. If he's here, it's king a7. So what does white do in this position? Just take a good look at that. Let's home in on it. What does white do here? This is the point. What does he play? Let's take a good look. Okay, well what he does is he plays here. Check. Now again, it doesn't matter whether he moves to a6 or a8. Why does it not matter? Well, for the same reason that it didn't matter the other time. What do we play there to make sure that it doesn't matter? We go here. And if you notice, we're playing a sort of a cat and mouse game with black here. We're forcing him to play moves, and then we play a move that covers the square that he thinks he's going to escape through. Now, if he'd gone to here, if you see what I mean, he would have had to have played here, whereas here, he still has to go back to a7. So what do we play now? Just look at that for a moment. What do we play? You have to be very careful here. You have to be extremely careful. You can easily go wrong. You need to cover the square. So now is the right moment to release the pawn. Do you see what we're doing here? Now it doesn't make any difference here whether he moves the king to a8, his only square, which is this, or he moves the pawn. Let's just move the pawn. What do? How do we get him? We play like that. We put him in check. Now then, he can't move the pawn, he has to move the king, and he must go to a8 this time. So what do we do now? Just take a good look at that. Mate in 2, and there's no escape. If you think about this, just take this off the board for a moment. That will be stalemate. And this is why you can't mate with 2 knights alone. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. So he's played here. So what do? How do we respond to that? That's b4 to b3. Mate in 2. We come here. This knight doing an admirable job covering a7. He can't move his king. He has to move his pawn, and he's 1 square away from queening. If he were 1 square further ahead and he could queen that pawn now, white couldn't win this game. But now, checkmate. And isn't that a lovely problem from all those years ago, showing that they could certainly play chess 261 years ago. Wonderful stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this one. As I did, I solved it. And I haven't even seen the solution. I don't even want to bother looking at it. I'm quite satisfied that that is right. And all the best to you and your chess. And goodbye for now.